Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Tuesday evening, October 24, 2023. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather's been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any other related questions that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at what the United States Climate Prediction Center is showing on their Global Tropics Hazard Outlook. We can still see much of the same like what we saw last week. They are highlighting that for the period of November 1 to 7 and November 8 to 14, we're going to be having some amount of tropical cyclone probability across the Caribbean as indicated by those whites and reds, as well as the reds by itself, especially across the central and western Caribbean in the first week of November. We can also see some slight greens right there still across the central to the western Caribbean that indicates some amount of above normal rainfall. We know how these things go. We have to stay updated to see exactly what unfolds, because usually what the Climate Prediction Center is showing is not set in stone. However, we need to remember that we are in the final weeks of hurricane season, and when we're wrapping up hurricane season, we usually see some amount of tropical development across the Caribbean region, so we have to stay vigilant, especially with the very warm sea surface temperatures across the Atlantic at this time. Alright, so let's just take a look at what the US National Hurricane Center is showing. We can see that we still have Hurricane Tommy. We don't have anything else to be talking about apart from Tommy. Tommy is still located right there to the southeast of Bermuda, to the north of the eastern Caribbean. It is still packing maximum sustained winds of 75 miles per hour, and it is moving towards the northeast at 8 miles per hour, and it is then expected to move towards the west, maybe affecting Bermuda. Let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can see Hurricane Tommy right there. We can see a trough attached to Tommy across the northeastern Caribbean, and we can also see a cold front that stretches all the way from northern section of North Atlantic all the way down into the southwestern Atlantic. And when we take a look at the visible satellite images before the sun went down, we can see the clouds associated with that cold front stretching all the way down into the southwestern Atlantic, not to mention the clouds associated with that trough that stretches all the way from northeastern Caribbean into Hurricane Tommy. We'll be talking more about the weather across the Caribbean later on. Let's focus our attention on the prediction that was made in yesterday's video about the weather across Jamaica for today. It was stated that we would have received some amount of rainfall across sections of some northern and eastern parishes in the morning, and then sections of some southern and western parishes during Tuesday afternoon. I don't know, northern parishes we're talking about Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. Southern parishes Westmoreland, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine, St. Andrew, St. Thomas. And eastern parishes we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey. Western parishes we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall. Central parishes we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex. And what ended up happening as early as 2:55 a.m. this morning, early morning, post was made highlighting clouds coming in from the northeast with all of that northeast breeze that we mentioned, affecting sections of some northern parishes with some amount of isolated thunder showers, and some of this even spilled into sections of some southern parishes. So the air is so moist that we're definitely sending some of this rainfall across the north coast into the south coast, which is the opposite of what we usually get in the winter. In the winter months, we usually get all of that rain piling up across the north coast and then heading into the hills. So let's say more in the way of northern areas or some southern parishes getting in on that rainfall. But we definitely had a lot of moist conditions today. The ingredients were ripe for all of that rainfall to be sent all the way across the northeast into the southern parishes, which explains the rainfall that we got throughout the day today. Then another post was made at 6 a.m. highlighting the Cuban Doppler radar images showing more in the way of rainfall coming into sections of Portland, sections of St. Thomas, as we can see indicated by those greens and yellows that represent moderate to heavy rainfall. Then throughout the day we still had much of the same. The visible satellite images were shown at 12:06 p.m. highlighting the clouds coming in from the northeast, definitely bringing some amount of rainfall to sections of some eastern and central parishes. Then in the afternoon, we had the afternoon prediction coming true at 3:05 p.m. highlighting the infrared satellite images showing clouds bring some amount of isolated thunderstorms to sections of some southern parishes, but we still had that rainfall coming into sections of the northeast as well. And if we even take a look at the live camera from halfway through, all courtesy of the See Jamaica YouTube channel. If you don't know by now, we have a partnership with that YouTube channel where they show actual live streams of the corporate area, halfway tree, downtown Kingston, and even Crossroads. And we can see that by this time, 12:24 p.m., we had the rainfall confirmed across halfway tree. Definitely seeing the raindrops, people walking with their umbrella as well. So this definitely confirms the rainfall that we had across the areas for today. And we also have more confirmation coming in on our social media platforms from commenters. Too many comments to read, but I'll read a few. Ram JA stating let rain in Portmore, good shower. Bedrock and Pillow Jam stating raining cats and dogs. Then we had Island Tulip stating lovely rain. I am Yardy stating lightning and thunder in St. Catherine. Portmore Bell stating on and off rain in Greater Portmore. Shakira stating rain on and off sometimes, sun come out here in Fraser's Content Spanish Town. So we definitely had some amount of rainfall taking place across the Jamaica area for today. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, we do indeed see where we had that rainfall, all courtesy of that northeasterly flow across the island. Definitely had those clouds and that wind coming in from the northeast, and then all of that piling up and bring some amount of rainfall to sections of the island. And we can even see that right now we still have some amount of thunderstorm activity taking place off to the southeast of the island, and all of that is being pushed off towards the south and west. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images right now from the Cuban radar site, we confirm that rainfall that we just saw on the infrared satellite images right there off to the southeast of Jamaica, definitely off the coast of St. Thomas, getting in on some very wet and heavy weather. And if we take a look at the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology website, showing the accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours, we do have confirmation that yes, we had rainfall across sections of most parishes today, especially on the north coast. On another note, a post was made on our social media platforms highlighting the fact that today was the anniversary of Hurricane Sandy. It states right here, today in hurricane history, 11 years ago on October 24, 2012, Hurricane Sandy hit Jamaica as a powerful Category 1, bringing very strong winds and torrential rainfall, causing 2 fatalities and racking up $100 million in damages in Jamaica. Do you remember this hurricane? I certainly do. It definitely crossed all the way over my house in St. Thomas. We definitely had some strong winds, heavy rainfall, and we are grateful that it didn't do much damage. On another note, a post was recently made on our Twitter page, just made as a matter of fact, like the past 15 minutes, highlighting the fact that we should take heed due to the fact that all of this northeast wind is going to be bringing a lot of rainfall over the next 3 days across Jamaica, especially northeastern Jamaica, where we have those colors right there that go even up to 100 millimeters of rainfall or more. Look at the areas highlighted. Definitely sections of St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, St. Thomas, definitely gonna be getting in on some amount of flood triggering rainfall. And the post reads, attention, high amounts of rainfall are in the forecast for sections of especially northeast Jamaica over the next 3 days. Some of this rainfall may trigger flash flooding. If you must go out, bring your umbrella, and if you come upon flooded roadways, turn around, don't drown. And these maps from the Euro and the JFS malls are showing consensus. We see the colors, the heavy rainfall that's expected, and they go all the way out up until 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here, which is actually 10 p.m. Jamaica time. So ensure that you are staying safe during this time, especially if you live in the parish of Portland, St. Mary, or even St. Thomas. And you might be wondering what's causing all of this. We don't really see a trough, we don't see a tropical wave, we don't see a tropical depression. However, what we do see is that brisk northeasterly flow of winds across the island. And if we take a look at the wind flow right here, let me see if I can find the wind flow. Yes, if we take a look at the wind flow right here, we can see that wind coming in from the northeast across the island. And the air is very moist. It's not like in the winter months like January, February, where we only have the moist air across the north. The entire Caribbean is very moist at this time, so we don't have much dry air. So this is what exactly happens. All of this wind comes off of the sea. So let us say this side of the map is Portland, and all of this, or not necessarily Portland, all of this side is the north coast, and all of these clouds are coming in with all of that strong wind. And then we have that orographic lift. The clouds are rising, trying to get all the way up and over the hills, and then we have that rainfall taking place. And usually what happens on the south coast, considering this side, the right hand side would be the south coast, we wouldn't normally get rainfall. This would be the rain shadow, where we would get a lot of dry conditions, like especially what we usually get in the winter months. But there's so much moisture in the atmosphere that all of these clouds are making their way all over the hills and mountains and coming into the southern parishes, which explains the rainfall that we got today. And we're indeed grateful that we're getting this rainfall. Hopefully it doesn't bring too much into a flash flooding or damage at all. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see we have 27 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston, and by 3 a.m. tonight the temperature should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 27 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, we do see that cold front right there across the northern portion of the basin, stretching down into the southwestern Atlantic, is bringing some amount of below normal temperatures as indicated by the blues. So definitely 1 to even up to 5 degrees Celsius below normal temperatures right there off the southeastern coast of the United States. Either way, look at what is being predicted for Jamaica. We don't see the yellows. We see it maybe across the southern portion of the island, but for the most part we don't see any colors at all. We're in between, so we should be getting average temperatures for 18th on Wednesday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Wednesday, especially considering that the winds are going to be coming in from the northeast and blowing all of that cool air down into the Jamaica area, so we could get a break from the warm temperatures for tomorrow. So we know the average temperature for the month of October in Jamaica is about 89 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's about the same as 31 degrees Celsius. So that's where it's going to be for Wednesday. And just as what we stated earlier, we can see all of that dry air behind the cold front, but it's the Caribbean where we see the very moist air as indicated by the blues. As we can see the key on the bottom, yellows, oranges and reds are what represents the dry air. This is not Saharan dust, this is dry air. Majority of the Saharan dust is right there across portions of the main development region. We can see it even better right here on the Saharan dust forecast. This is 2 p.m. on Wednesday, and we do see some kind of Saharan dust stretching all the way into the main development region, but it's not that robust. We're actually in the month where we don't see much in the way of Saharan dust activity. We won't see much of that until the late spring 2024. Taking a look at the wave forecast, it makes sense that the highest wave should be on the north coast for tomorrow, even some slight purples that indicate almost 2-meter wave heights, while the southern portion of the island are going to be getting in at the least amount of wave heights, so up to 0.5 of a meter wave heights. And it makes sense, the winds are coming in strong. Look at those yellows that represent 25 knot winds, and the bright greens represent 20 knot winds coming in from the northeast. And then as usual, that air is going to be piling up across sections of some southern parishes in Jamaica, so all of that rainfall still coming in from the northeast to affect northern parishes, then spilling into sections of some southern parishes throughout the day, and especially during the afternoon we have that afternoon thunderstorm activity. And with the upper level winds coming in from the northeast for tomorrow, it's definitely favoring more in the way of some southern parishes in Jamaica getting in on a more of that rainfall during the afternoon hours. So definitely something similar to what happened today with all of that rainfall. And let us take a look at the precipitation forecast. Look at the 1 hour totals. This map from the Euro and this map from the GFS is valid for 2 a.m. Jamaica time. And what do we see? Both of these maps are showing blues that represent rainfall cross sections of especially in northeastern Jamaica, St. Mary, Portland, St. Thomas. We can't rule out some rainfall cross sections of St. Anne, Trelawney, and St. James as well. Skipping ahead to about 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 6 a.m. Jamaica time, we see much of the same. Definitely going to be a huge, tremendous accumulation of rainfall, just like what we saw on the other posts, because the rainfall is continuing. It's not even dwindling, it's not moving away. It's just going to be on and off rainfall throughout the day on a Wednesday. Definitely going to be triggering some amount of flash flooding, especially across Portland, St. Mary, sections of St. Anne, section of eastern St. Thomas. Could get in on some of that. Look at that, some dark blues. That's 6 a.m. Jamaica time. Skipping ahead, much of the same. This is 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 9 a.m. Jamaica time. Much of the same, northern and eastern Jamaica getting in on that rainfall. Skipping ahead to about 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 1 p.m. Jamaica time. Something similar. Not much has changed. Look at that, we're even seeing some greens on the GFS models across sections of the northeast that indicate a lot of rainfall right there. Starting to incorporate some central and western parishes, especially some southern parishes, with that afternoon rainfall. Even around 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 4 p.m. Jamaica time, we see much of the same. More in the way of rainfall cross sections of some northern and eastern parishes, even all the way up to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Jamaica time, something similar. So it's gonna be quite a rainy day, especially for the northeast, which explains what we just saw on the other maps. And we can see the consensus, some tremendous rainfall totals being shown on both the Euro and the GFS models. The Euro model showing up to 1.03 inch of rainfall, especially on the northeastern side of the island. Keep in mind that both of these maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on a Wednesday. And we can see the GFS is a bit more robust, even getting into the purples. Look at the key on the right that indicate almost 3 inches of rainfall across sections of Portland for tomorrow. But we're grateful that we're going to be getting rainfall. We're in the month of October. It's been quite a hot year. We'll take all the rainfall that we can get before we enter our dry months of December through to April. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let's focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So we can see that we have some amount of clouds bringing some amount of thunderstorm sections of Cuba, the Turks and Caicos, Haiti, Dominican Republic. We can still see leftover clouds from tropical depression number 21 across sections of Honduras, El Salvador. That has not dissipated, so it's no longer a tropical depression, but we do see the clouds still across those spots, bringing some amount of overcast skies and rainfall. We can see clouds bring rainfall to sections of Costa Rica, the usual afternoon rainfall across sections of Colombia, Panama, sections of Suriname, French Guiana, and Guyana. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean, if these images will load, alright, we'll see that yes, we indeed had some amount of rainfall, still trailing into Hurricane Tommy, as we can see by the flow coming in from the west and going to the northeast. Across Puerto Rico coming in more from the northwest. Across St. Martin and St. Kitts coming in more from the west. Either way, we did indeed have some amount of hit or miss showers across those spots for today. And look at the Barbados radar. Don't have much on there for rainfall across Barbados at all, but we do see some isolated rainfall coming into sections of St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Martinique, and even sections of Dominica, especially the waters to the south and east of Barbados. Taking a look at the weather view of Doppler radar images, we can see that rainfall coming into sections of the Yucatan Peninsula, Belize, northern Guatemala, sections of Honduras, sections of northern Venezuela as well. And just like what we stated earlier, we have above normal temperatures across the Caribbean. Considering the northeasterly flow across the Greater Antilles, below normal temperatures are expected from anywhere from the southeastern United States, Florida, the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, Cuba, northern Hispaniola, and average temperatures for Puerto Rico and Jamaica, not to mention the Cayman Islands, but above normal temperatures from the eastern Caribbean to the central and western Caribbean Sea, especially northern South America, getting in on some very above normal temperatures as indicated by those reds. As related to the siren dust forecast, we do see that majority of the Caribbean should be in the clear for 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Only that long tongue of siren dust stretching all the way from Africa, and it won't even be that noticeable because that's not a vigorous plume of dust. Taking a look at the wave forecast, we do see the highest waves right where we have the strongest winds coming in from the northeast. So the southwestern Atlantic, the Gulf of Mexico, sections of the northern Greater Antilles, majority of the central and western Caribbean Sea should be getting up to 0.5 meter wave height. And that's due to the fact that the winds are not going to be that strong across the Caribbean Sea right there. Maybe anywhere from 5 to 10 knots at most. But it's going to be the Greater Antilles that's getting the stronger winds, averaging anywhere from 15 to 25 knots from the northeast, considering the cold front. Let us take a look at the accumulated precipitation forecast by both the Year and the GFS models. Keep in mind that both of these maps are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Wednesday, because when we calculate 3Z on Thursday, that's what it means, 10 p.m. on Wednesday. And look what we see: Eastern Cuba getting in on some amount of rainfall, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, sections of the US and British Virgin Islands, St. Kitts and Nevis, maybe sections of Antigua and Barbuda might get on some amount of isolated showers. Guadeloupe, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, sections of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, sections of Grenada, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, not to mention sections of French Guiana and Suriname getting in on some amount of isolated rainfall. That's on the Euromodel GFS, not so much, but we do see the consensus that yes, sections of Guyana, Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, Belize, and sections of Mexico could get in on some amount of rainfall that could trigger some amount of flash flooding. I know that when both maps are showing something similar like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.